Hello. Guten Nachmittag. I made it. I am on time. That is so cool. Yes, this is my latest ambition, to try to make it on time. I'm starting to set up half an hour earlier. Maybe it will have worked. So good afternoon, everybody. It's great that you can make it to the earlier talk if you can. Maybe there's not so many people that are here. Yeah. And the good thing about the earlier talk is it includes the Australia. So Australia are in their evening, which is fantastic. Hello, Australia. God, I'm such a bozo sometimes. Yes. So if this is the first time you've come to my talk, then welcome. And I shall just inform you how it works. So you ask me questions through Skype. My Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12. That's Lisa Cairns 12. And you can either put call me, or you can write your question there. If you want me to call you, just put call me and don't put anything else so I can see it in the chat. And if you want to call in, make sure you've got a good headset and a good connection. And my Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12. And the name of the talk today is No Thing Can Make You Happy. No thing can make you happy. Yeah. And if I run out of questions on the Skype, then I will go to the chat in YouTube below, or the side. Maybe this side, not sure. Okay, so we shall begin with the meditation. So I always like to do silent sitting at the beginning of the talk. I have to find my gong. I have to get my dong to hit my big gong. My dong and my gong. So just before we do the meditation, I'll just tell you a bit about it. There is nothing which can make you enlightened. There's nothing which can make you more here. But what you can do is the person can practice putting the attention in the now. The person believes it has free will and autonomy and it's doing it, but it's actually happening. So it's actually not a prescription, it's a description of something that can happen. But it's not actually a prescription of something that you're doing and that I'm telling you to do. So by putting your attention in the present moment, what it can do is calm the person down, make the person more focused. And then maybe make it more receptive to hearing non-duality. But that's a maybe, that's an unknown. If somebody's deeply suffering, then it seems to me irrelevant to speak about non-duality. So there needs to be some sort of equanimity. Like if somebody's like deeply in grief because they've just lost their child or something, suddenly going up to someone and saying, there is nobody, who is crying, who died, seems irrelevant. But that's not actually why I sit in silence at the beginning of the talks. I sit in silence at the beginning of the talks because I like to do that. Yeah. So there's 3 different things I suggest you can do. You can either put your attention back in the I am or consciousness, so keep moving the attention back into that. Or you can do the mindfulness of breathing, which is counting your breath up to 10 and then going back to 1. So counting all the way up to 10 and then back to 1. And the other one is just sitting there and not doing anything. Just letting the mind have a good old natter about whatever it wants to natter about. At the Buddhist Center, we used to practice this one and they used to call it just sitting. I used to find that quite humorous, that we were practicing just sitting. Dong. Just sitting. Yeah. Okay. So we shall begin. I'm going to hit my big gong with my dong. Are you ready? Are you steady? My gong is over here. You can't see it. Here you go. Okay, we are ready. So, no thing makes you happy. No thing makes you happy. It's such a great title. No thing makes you happy. So you could say, not a thing makes you happy. Not a thing makes you happy. Or you could say the opposite. Everything makes you happy. So not a thing makes you happy, or everything makes you happy. Isn't that great news? Isn't this the best news? Everything makes you happy. So the air makes you happy. The light makes you happy. The sound of my voice makes you happy. The sound of the wind outside makes you happy. The bum on seat makes you happy. So nothing makes you happy, and everything makes you happy. So what is it meant by nothing makes you happy? So it kind of means two things. It means like knowing who you are or being rooted in self is happiness. And then it also means that not one thing in life will make you happy. So not achievement, not your feelings, not your emotions, not what you get, what you don't get, your money, your relationships, how alone or not alone you are. Like nothing you actively do to try to achieve something will make you happy. Nothing will make you happy. Nothing will give you what you're looking for. And what is it that every human being is looking for? And that is love. What every human being is looking for is love. Is contentment with right now, is the end of seeking. The end of seeking love. And what do I mean by love? I mean unconditioned love. Home. This sense of being at home. This sense of being in the right place at the right time. That there's nothing missing. You could say that love is the essence of all things. It is everything. But when the seeking occurs and the identification with that person that's seeking happens, there is a covering of the love in which you are. There's a covering of this home. And in its absence, you then seek for it. So once losing it because you think it's in a thing, you think it's in time, you then seek to achieve that in objects. And it's like a cat trying to chase its tail and never makes it. Or maybe a cat does sometimes catch its tail. Maybe like the cat trying to capture light. It's an impossibility. All your efforts will never make you arrive. You'll end up a very stressed human being trying to do all these things to make you happy. So who is it that you are? What is this love? This love is a combination of two things, which are actually one thing, because there is no two things or no division. But because we're using language, and this is kind of like a teaching method without being a teaching method, you have to give all these disclaimers when you're teaching non-duality. You is this sense of I am, like I am, boop boop, I am, that sense of being alive that's always been there. So when you wake up in the morning, there's always a sense of being, no matter what. There's always this sense of I am. Not I am Lisa, or I am good, or I am bad, or I'm rich, or I'm happy, or I'm sad. This sense of being. There's always that. And then there's also this empty looking, that's so empty, has no position. You can't find it. It's not subject from that, it's not separate from that which it looks at. Initially people say it's behind the person, like looking at the person. But as you really explore that, you see that the empty looking is everywhere and all things. Initially, when it's being taught, there will be the teaching that the consciousness is looking at the I am. But again, when you really explore that, you find that the being and the empty looking, the I am and the empty looking, are one and the same thing. The I am, you could say, is everything, and you could say the empty looking is the nothing. But they're two sides of the same coin. It's so beautiful. It is love. And this empty looking is what you are, but it's a mystery. You can't ever find this empty looking in the I am. You can't ever place it and say it's in my heart or behind my eyes. But it's what you are, it's there, it's inherent in every experience, even in deep sleep. It's just in deep sleep there's no objects in order to see the world. So you could say it's consciousness at rest. So it's there in every experience inherently. There isn't any experience in which the empty looking isn't. It's always there. It's always here. Like, look into your experience and see if there is a time where there wasn't consciousness. How would that be? Most people think of consciousness as the personal consciousness, so they think of this person that's trying to put their attention into this moment and then losing it. But that's actually personal awareness. There's something that watches that personal awareness. There's something that knows that. So the one that's focusing or not focusing, or being present or not being present, something knows that. That's beautiful. This is all you've ever looked for. The person, when there's identification with that and the belief that you are a person that's separate, the person is looking for happiness in its feelings. It's looking for good feelings, pleasurable experiences, objects that it likes, believing that is happiness. Whereas happiness is actually what you are. No one can take that from you. It's like the constant lover. The constant lover. The constant mother, you could say. It's the constant mother. Constant lover, constant mother. Isn't it funny? Those words are very similar. Lover, mother. If you're... I was going to make a joke about German speaking English, but then I realised that's rude. Now that I'm English trying to learn other languages, I realise how hard it is. But it was just for fun. Didn't mean to be rude. I'm sure the Germans, after me just saying the th and the v, know what I mean. Yeah. So the mind gets into this conditioned pattern, and then it becomes like an energetic feeling in the body, like the emotions follow that you need all these things to be happy. And because we also live in a consumerist society, or most of us that are listening do, I assume if you don't live in a consumerist society, then maybe you're not allowed to watch this in your country. If you're in a communist country, maybe communist is slightly consumerist as well. But the TV, the media is always telling you of all these things that you need. You need this, you need that. All these things that you need to do. And it is not true. Those things are pleasure versus pain, but they're not your happiness, they're not your freedom. Your freedom is what you are, always. So the mind right now might be scrambling for all these things that it thinks it needs to get or it needs to be. And there's something that's watching that is absolutely at peace with that. Whether you've got like really high intelligence that can think about 3 things at once, or whether your thought patterns are very slow, whether they're at peace or whether they're suffering, there is something that is watching that. And that watching is inherently free. That watching isn't personal. It's not a personal I. The I appears in the dream, which is something that's always in constant flux. When I say the I mean the illusory I. The person that appears and disappears. This moment you're a happy person, joyful person, then the next a sad person, then a rich person, then a poor person. Your I is always in movement, just like everything else that appears in this world. Everything that appears in this world is always in flux, which is a reflection again that this is a world of oneness. Because everything is constantly transforming into something else. Isn't that miraculous? But it's like a circle. So everything is transforming into something else, but it's circular. It can't go outside of this. It can expand. Okay, maybe it's like more spiral. It can expand, but only in the creation. It can't get out of the creation. So it can expand and get bigger, like the circle can get bigger, like a spiral. But you can't lose things from this. You can't, like Lisa can't just suddenly go, okay, I'm going outside the world of form to another place. That's what we imagine happens with death, but that isn't what happens with death. What happens with death is a movement back to what we are, which is the looking. Which is what's always happening, but there is this illusion that it's the person looking. So in death, there will be this big expansion back into empty looking, which is love. But that's what's always happening. It's always consciousness recognizing consciousness in everything. It's always consciousness being itself. Oh, what? It's so juicy. I love this subject. It's oosey doosey. You'll want a Khaleesi cute attack. Or is that what I want? Hello, EE. You're so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is there any more to be said? Yeah, there feels like there's more to be said. So right now the question is, who is looking at me? Who is looking at me? Who is looking? So the mind reports back that you are David and you are 56 years old and you live in Tunbridge, Wales, and you have a dog called Holly and you're single. But that's not who's looking. That's not who's looking. Who's looking is this. It's the stillness of what is. It's that which never moves. That is the play. That you is a waking dream. It's not real. It's not a separate entity. That you, which you believe yourself to be, is coming and going. It's coming and going. It's not who you are. It is not who you are. And this looking is everywhere. It's so still and expansive. It's not looking through your eyes. It appears like it's looking through your eyes, but it's actually in all things. Inherently in all things. Instantaneously. It's quicker than that. It's quicker than these words. It's instant. And that's always been the experience. The lie has been, I am alive. I am this person. I've got to do all these things. That is the lie. What is instantaneous? What is instantaneous? Just gets so confusing because the language, when we communicate, is always indicating a person that goes into time, which is based on action. So in thoughts, we're always that character. But what is beyond thought? What is beyond thinking? It's undescribable. So the mind is like, a, what are those things called? Have I ever told this story? I most probably have. I was in India many moons ago, and this hotel I was staying at was like the comedy of errors, which is often sometimes the case in India. So I was staying in this hotel, and they started to, right next to my room, like dig up the foundations for another hotel next to it, or another building next to it. And so one day I decided to go back for a sleep, and then they started like right outside my room, and it was like really intense. And so eventually I concluded that I can't sleep through this, and I opened up my door, and because I fed all the dogs, they were all just fast asleep snoring outside of my door, and they're almost like shaking on the floor because the man's like but all the dogs are still like. So after that day I was like, if the dogs can sleep through it, I can sleep through it. For this hotel also, another time when I was coming back to the hotel, I'd been out all day, and when I came back at like 8 o'clock at night, and I didn't like being out at 8 o'clock at night around the area because it was dark, and yeah, it's not so good for a woman to be out at that time, and it was dark. And I drove back the usual route, and there was no door. The door no longer existed. There were just bricks in where the door was. It wasn't even like there was still a frame. It was just like a smooth door, wall. There was no longer any door to go inside. So then I was like, oh, okay, they bricked up the door, but they didn't tell anyone. So then I like drove all along the building looking for the door in the pitch black, and it took me like about an hour, I think, to work out that I had to go back up to the main road, all the way to the main road, down another road to enter the new door. Like they didn't even put a sign out to say we've moved the door to the other side of the building. If anyone's been to Tiruvannamalai, it was called the greenhouse where I stayed. This was a long time ago. And like that stay, there was just so many like things that happened. And I think Muji was going to Tiruvannamalai then, so it was so blocked out, all the booking, like you couldn't change your booking. Like I wouldn't normally stay there, but it was just, there was people everywhere. Yeah, it's very funny. There is no door. Like imagine just coming home tonight, wherever you live, and then there's just no door. The door is gone. It's like, did I actually wake up this morning, or am I still in my dream at night? Yeah. Okay, let's go on to questions and answers. There was actually an email question that somebody sent me from last week's talk, so maybe I will read that. But there was something that I wanted to ask you all about and to comment your answer below, but I've forgotten what it was. Oh well, okay. So we will just look for this question. It was a nice question, so I thought, and it related to last week's stream. So they asked a question in last week's stream, and then afterwards, like it evoked something strong in them, and they wrote me a question through my website, and I didn't answer. Please know that if you do write to me through my website about anything, if it's like one of these questions, you know, like questions for my live stream, more than likely they just won't get answered. If it's about sessions, then it might take about a month to get answered. Yeah. Let's be honest about these things, eh? Yeah, so just prepare yourself. I try. Carolyn, I think her name was. Okay. So this is for you, Karen. And you asked a question last week, which was something about whether your kids exist when you are not with them. And then it triggered something in you, and then you wrote to me. I hope It's okay that I read it out on live stream. I presume it is. I listened to your live stream yesterday and it left me in conflict, probably the mind. The question of one person has been, oh, it wasn't you. Okay, it was someone else. Are my kids existing when they are not around? You said no, they are not existing. I do understand being here now in this moment. That is my reality and my truth. And anything that is not here or present is connected to thought patterns in the mind. But how can I say that, well, I don't have kids? Little side note. But my nieces, for example, my sister are not existing when they are not here. How can I say starving, for example, isn't existing? Starving. How can I say starving, for example, isn't existing because no one in my presence is starving right now? Isn't that also kind of ignorance? I don't mind anything that I write. I don't mean anything I write in a judging way. I just honestly have conflict about this. I know that all is knowing and knowing is a thought, but still people are existing, people are starving. There is an organic store in my house. How can I buy someone a birthday present if he or she is not existing because the birthday is next week and I'm not there yet? I mean, there is a purpose to mind, isn't there? I was asking you what is with the knowing, and you said the knowing is a thought. Is the knowing not true or real then? And you might or might not remember what you've said yesterday, or you don't. No, I don't remember. That was a week ago now. I wouldn't have remembered the next day either. Don't get me wrong, I'm willing to go through everything aside if I know how to let go, to really let go. Haha, I just have to laugh about what I wrote to myself. If I know how to get to let go, that I believe you can't know. You can only be. Please help me letting go of this conflict, Caroline. Yes, sure. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Are my kids existing when they're not there? And I said, no, they're not existing. The true answer actually is deeper than no, but when you speak about non-duality, you often have to sacrifice yourself and answer things because you're trying to point to something deeper. But I can't answer everything with nothing. So it's actually deeper than, are your kids existing when they're not here? It's deeper than yes or no. But I'm saying no because most humans that exist, maybe not the people listening to these talks, but most people believe that the kids are existing when they're not there. So the answer is beyond yes or no. But I say no because most people believe yes. And I'm trying to point something out. So yeah, it's difficult when you teach non-duality because non-duality is not two-ness. So how come we spend 2 hours talking about something which cannot be talked about? You employ a triple Gemini, which is what I am, and then sit them in front of a computer with questions. The triple Geminis are communicators, if you didn't know. Oh, a Gemini is a communicator, but I'm a triple Gemini in some astrologies and in some a double Gemini. Which is like my arse, my ears, my mouth, my nose are speaking. Every part of me is like, like a chicken. Anyway. So, yes, the answer is, but I will say no. So let me try and speak about that again. So if you think of a computer game like Super Mario Brothers, so I'm sure most of you know Super Mario Brothers, and the main character is called Mario. When you're not playing the game, so when you play the game, Super Mario seemingly exists in your character. You know, he's running along. If you say up, he goes up. If you say jump, he jumps. Boop, 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 boop. So he's doing all his moves according to you, and you'd say he seemingly exists. He doesn't actually exist. What you're seeing is zeros and ones and lights. I'm not sure actually. I think it's like coding. I don't know how you code. And lights flashing very rapidly to give the appearance of it. So Super Mario Brother, even when you're looking at it, doesn't exist, but it appears to exist when you're when you're watching on the screen. But when you quit the game, he no longer exists. But he exists as in we can say, oh, I was just playing Super Mario, or we can talk about Super Mario because all of us know it. But because nobody's actually playing the game and he's not on the screen, all that coding disappears back, or those lights that were flashing that made him disappear into whiteness or whatever they disappear into. That's just like a metaphor. It's not exactly true, but it's a metaphor that tries to push your mind. So what quantum physics, one thing that quantum physics seemingly suggests, and please shoot me, you can in the comments below if I'm speaking out of line about quantum physics. I'm sure there's so many people that can speak deeper about it. But one experiment they did was one about Kroninger's, am I saying the name right, cat, where they man, I haven't thought about this for a long time, where they discovered that the cat was dead and alive simultaneously. Yeah, I've forgotten that experiment totally. My apologies again. In the comments, you can put it in so people can read it. But basically, what quantum physics began to suggest is that nothing is certain. Everything is all possibilities until it's looked at. So particles, I'm not even sure if it's atoms, but particles are in all possibilities until it's looked at. That is freaking mind-blowing. And this is why quantum physics and relativity can't quite work together. So quantum physics works as an explanation of what's happening, and oh no, that's string theory, I think. Oh, far out. My brain is terrible at remembering things. I know all these things in my unconscious because I've learnt it for so long, but I can't necessarily always communicate it. Yes, but anyway, quantum mechanics suggests that particles, when they're not looked at, they exist as all possibilities. That is freaking amazing. So it's only once they're looked at that they come into form. And this just like blows up your mind, and then like brings in law of attraction, like all these different things, like the nature of who is looking. It's really, if you want to learn more about it, even though it's very superficial, there is a film out there which is related to spirituality called What the Beep Do We Know? Somebody can put that in a link down below. Not in my box, but in the comments you can put it in a link. But you can explore it deeper. Yeah. You can most probably also link other videos where I actually remember all these different things and explain them. Yeah. So all we can say really is that what is what is. And we can also kind of say, no, nothing else exists but what is, because that's always our experience. We never experience outside of that. So we only ever experience what is. But I could also see how you could just drop into no answer because it is unknowable whether things exist outside of this or don't. Our experience is nothing exists outside of this. And to me, that's the most important part, your experience, not what somebody teaches you or not what you think about or not what you imagine. It's the actual experience that's the most important. It's dead exciting. I do understand being here now in this moment. That is my reality and my truth. And I think that, but then again, who is here in this moment? There's still someone that knows about being here in this moment. There's not actually someone that could be here in this moment. There is the movement of awareness, of personal awareness, which is telling the story of putting its attention here and staying focused on this moment rather than thinking. But there's something that is conscious of that. And who is it that's conscious of that? Who knows that? How can I say starving, for example, isn't existing because no one in my presence is starving right now? Isn't that a kind of ignorance? So notice how your mind has gone to a suffering. So it's like all the starving people in the world. How can we say they don't exist? Isn't that kind of an ignorance? So just notice that that's what the mind does. And this is what the mind often does when it gets into this subject, is it brings up the question of morality, because morality is one of the most fundamental activities of our society. Like, our society is built on laws and rules which come back to, in the end, I suppose, some form of morality. That it's fair that this person owns this house, this person owns this house, this is We have all these laws, we have courts, we have judgments, and we all live abiding to these rules, which you could put back to a morality. That we as a group have moral obligations to live by. So when I question you and the nature of reality, you go back to morality. And that's often what happens, because we as humans are terrified of living without morality and without rules and regulations, because we fear the chaos of that. We fear being mistreated, because we've got to a stage now in the West where we don't live exactly in a fair society, but it's maybe the fairest society that we've seen for a very long time. Like, I look into history and I look at, I listen to other stories and I just think I'm so lucky to be alive now. And this might be a brief time, because we might be coming to a very high control period of time. We don't know. Yeah. But in the way, that doesn't exist, so it doesn't really matter. That's all. But just notice it challenges morality. You go to, what about all the starving people? This is often when I used to teach non-duality years before, when it was more unheard of. It was often people would come back with this whole morality question. And morality is a different subject. That's about how we as human beings live together. But the sense of self is developed from us trying to live together. The reason that we developed a sense of self was so we could communicate, like, I'm going down to the river to fish. I'm going to do this. You are going to do that. And this is how the sense of the self evolved. So the sense of self and living together are very tied. Like, you don't exist without relationships. And our whole world as humans is based on relationships. You might not think it, but it is. It's based on your relationship to the other, your relationship to your car, to your money, to your dog, to your home environment, to your trees, to the ground, to your food. It's all you in relationship in the human world. But what's being talked about is what's beyond that. And what's beyond that is without any morality, without knowing anything. It's complete emptiness. And on the human level, as we as a society begin to change our minds and become more peaceful and more in line with ourselves, I would suspect then that society will begin to reflect that. At the moment, even though we're at a very peaceful time in our world history as humans, there's still a lot of unfairness and a lot of cruelty, even though we're at a relative stability. Like, West is mostly stable because it uses it extracts resources from poorer countries. Like, so that's partly how it's created its stability for very low money. So there's still a lot of cruelty and a lot of like hierarchy. Not that I'm against hierarchy. That's beside the point. I've said that type of thing before and been called a communist. I'm actually not a communist or a fascist, either one. I'm not sure I believe in either society. I feel like what needs to be is a revolution of the way the human perceives the world. And then the society will naturally change. But when we see ourselves and our relationship with others differently, when we see who we truly are, which is love, then there will be a radical shift in humanity. I know that it's all knowing, and knowing is a thought. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that. I know that other people teach it differently, but the knowing, the consciousness is not a thought. Thoughts arise in that consciousness. And if you're using consciousness as knowing, yeah, I think I've answered that. Okay, Caroline, thank you for your question. I hope that helped. Nice, Nick, danke. Hi, Merv. So remember to call me if you want to speak live. Hi, Merv. Hi, Lisa. Lately, I've been in a lot of pain, emotionally and physically. It feels difficult to be on the non-dual spiritual path when the person is suffering. How can I bring myself back into the now moment and remember that it is all just happening when there is so much pain inside the person? Thank you. Lots of love. Yeah, I mean, that's totally true, right? That's yeah, that's what I kind of say when I do the meditation at the beginning of the session. Like, if the person's really suffering, how can you really hear non-duality? Like, the last thing that person wants to do when it's suffering is hear that freedom is now, and to go into the pain rather than to try to avoid it, to surrender to the pain. That's very difficult. What I would suggest is doing activities which help you release that physical pain, like massage, like some form of therapy which is connected to the body. So understanding how your thoughts are affecting your body. Is that somatic therapy, I think, maybe? Massage is great, acupuncture, Ayurvedic medicine. They're doing all these things to try to settle down that pain and try to understand why that pain is happening. So then there can be a point of accepting that pain more, and then once there's more acceptance of it, then there can be a hearing of non-duality. Yeah, and often people have to go through that. I see that you're very young, and people have to go through a period of like healing that and understanding how their body works and how their mind works, and finding a living situation which is conducive to it being more at peace rather than in conflict. And you can also listen to non-duality while you're doing that, but then once it's more in equanimity, then non-duality can be really heard. Yeah, thank you, Merv, for your question. Vahid. Hey, Vahid. Let me just check that the stream is still working. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for the live. As you know better, Osho was a great master and he personally led countless meditation camps. But why could he not make any of his numerous disciples enlightened like himself? Hey, Vahid. I don't know. Maybe there were people that became free. But so listening to his talks, and then there were people that dropped away their sense of self. But then you can also look at it like, who is he that makes other people free? Like, who is this Osho? We're so convinced by this Osho person. We're so convinced by this person that's going to come free, and we're so convinced that this Osho person has anonymity to, I can't say that word. I will be able to say it again later. It's the dyslexia. In order to affect this other person. Like, really, there is one energy moving. So if you imagine Super Mario Brother again, like, so you're playing Super Mario Brother and he's going along and he jumps up and he hits one of those question marks and like coins come out of the top. It looks like Super Mario is doing that, but actually it's coding that's happening that gives the appearance Super Mario is happening. There's not actually a Super Mario that's jumping up and down. There's just colors that are changing and making it look like that. And that's the same that's happening here. Like, there isn't actually an Osho up here that is teaching a student down here that's got to be awakened. There is consciousness from all angles. This one consciousness, and expression is happening through one body and hearing is happening through another body, but there isn't actually inherently an Osho there freeing a student. There is only what's happening. And what's happening is one energy expressing itself. So right now, you are, who you truly are, is as free as who Osho truly was. And who's an Osho student. It's that same energy. It's also the same looking energy that looked through Hitler. There's no escape from this. It's totally intense. That's God looking through. That's God also orchestrating stuff. And in some bodies, it orchestrates the collapsing of the identification with the person and remembering of itself. But it's absolutely impersonal, and it doesn't make any difference to the consciousness, to that which you are. Yeah, thanks, Vahid. I hope I say your name right. I'm sure I don't, but I give it my best go. Simon. Yeah, so remember, if you want to ask a question, call me if you want to speak live. I take preference to live questions. Yeah, thanks, Simon, for putting that, but I can't read it at the moment. I can't read that word at the moment. The cat. Schrödinger's cat. I do know these words, but it's just gone. Schrödinger's cat. Without getting into the nitty-gritty details, you perfectly explain the consequence of quantum physics, which is mind-boggling, and what it means for science itself is revolutionary. Most scientists don't seem to embody this knowledge. Yeah, thanks, Thomas. Schrödinger's. I do know how to say that word. Amy. Hey, Amy. Let's just take a moment. Question. Is there a difference between nothing and nothing? I get the sense that emptiness is nothing, but isn't nothing, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's all down to linguistics, like how you phrase things. I get what you're kind of trying to say, though, like that consciousness is not a thing, but it's not nothing, like we imagine nothing to be a big black hole. Yeah. Question. Is it? Oh, it's the same question. Yeah, thanks, Amy. Yeah, so consciousness, who we are, is not a thing. And you can say nothing, but it's not nothing like a human imagines. That would be a something. It's beyond all imagination. It's beyond all reaching. You can't grasp it. You can't be like, oh, let me get a bit of consciousness. Oh, I've got a bit more consciousness than that person over there. Oh, got a nice juicy bit. Oh, I went to see Armour. I got even bigger bit. It's no thing. It can't be grasped. Everything is that, though. So it's absolutely fair. Even though life can seem unfair, it is absolutely fair. Hi Osborne, these are questions from the video clips channel. So just an advertisement. Oh, I haven't advertised this in a long time. I forget. Osborne has a channel called Video Clips Lisa Cairns, and it's a really great channel. He edits my talks and he puts them onto YouTube with titles and in playlists, so you can find it easily. You can find a link to his channel on my YouTube channel. Maybe I should put it on my website too. If you just scroll down my YouTube channel, it's called Associated Links. And then also Osborne has other channels connected to that as well. I think he does a Roger one, if I'm not mistaken. A Roger Castillo. Okay. Dear Lisa, I've heard you say on several occasions that enlightenment is an energetic shift. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Could you explain it in greater detail, please? Yeah, so what I mean by the energetic shift is that when you're identified with the person, it's like your consciousness and your I am are limited to that person. Consciousness and I am can't actually be limited to it, but it feels like it. So it feels like you are somebody that's inside the body that is conscious, and that you're limited, and you feel like your edge exists somewhere around the edge of your body, and that you're experiencing everything inside your body. But this shift is like, it's like turns inside out. So it switches the other way. So who you are is consciousness, which is, and the I am, which is everywhere and all things. And in that arises the person. Whereas before, it felt like the person was experiencing. After the energetic shift, it feels like that consciousness is experiencing. And it feels expansive. The way Roger used to teach it to me was that he would say, like, that when you're suffering, you feel very contracted to the body. And as you become more happy, so there's less suffering, so less identity, you feel more expanded. So the next time you're happy, you can look at that, like you feel good. Like your mind might be saying, it's because I got a new house, it's because I got a girlfriend, it's because of this or that. But if you really explore it, you'll notice that you feel actually less centered in the body. You feel bigger, like more expanded, like your limits aren't like so limited to the body. And when you're suffering, you feel very dense and very squashed inside the body. And you can look at this and see. Oh no, Osborne says he's cut out the other channels. Yeah. I like your title on here, Flow Worker. That's good. I am a flow worker. Okay, there's no more questions on Skype, so I'll go to YouTube. So yeah, you can write some on YouTube and I'll speak to that. Somebody asked if I'm trying to make the streams earlier. No, I'm not. I made a mistake with the arrangements today, and we're going to see a house tonight. Visit a house to potentially buy it. I gave them quite a lot of times and days that I was free, and I just didn't expect them to pick Sunday evening. I thought that was a very small chance they would do it. And then they picked 6 p.m. Sunday evening. So sorry about that. Skoldeners. No, I can't say it. Oh, there is no questions on here. Talk about reincarnation and mochka. I don't know what moshka is. Reincarnation I can speak about. So my first entry into spirituality was Buddhism, and I really like the way they talk about reincarnation. So each Buddhist group is different, but the one that I studied with called it rebirth. And they would say it's not a person that's reborn. So there isn't a person that is reborn in the new life. It is the rebirth of habits and conditions. So to me, that fits perfectly with non-duality, and it also fits perfectly with this idea of ancestral karma as well. Like if you've ever bred dogs or watched dogs, like you can really see the ancestral karma. If you have like an aggressive mother or father dog, there's a good chance that you'll have aggressive puppies, or fearful ones, you'll have fearful ones. And there will be similar characteristics and dynamics. This is why you pay lots of money for show dogs, because we breed them so they have particular traits in order to be a show dog or a retriever or hunting dog. And then you pay loads of money for these two show dogs to breed, because they carry on those habits and those conditions. So yeah. And then that also makes sense for me, like in this life, like there isn't a you there who asked the question. Baba, I think. Badja asked the question. A Badja. There isn't actually a you there which is experiencing now. There is habits and conditionings, with the misidentification with those habits and conditioning. Thanks, Lisa. I prefer the later time. Yeah, I think I prefer the later time as well, but yeah, my mistake. In Hinduism and Jainism, release from the cycle of rebirth, impelled by the law of karma, the transcendent state attained as a result of being released from the cycle of rebirth. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And then Katie, under that, so that's KN that says that. She says, can you talk about law of attraction and getting out of lack state? So to me, law of attraction and karma are really similar. Like it's just like the westernization of karma to me. Like, so karma is the way in which this body is programmed. So we all have like karmic tendencies. And we can change these karmic tendencies to a great extent. But you're going to have your way of being. Like, I'm not going to change my skin color suddenly to purple, like just through changing my mentality. And it's the same with like habits and behaviors. Like there is a tendency that we will have, just like if you think about a dog, it has a tendency Like the different breeds have a tendency, like the spaniel is very waggy tailed and very sniffy, and the bulldog is very drawly, grunty and a bit dopey, but like really good at locking onto something. So we're going to have our tendencies, but there can be a relaxation of these tendencies, and there can also be this letting go. So this energy that believed that that's what they were, and then this seeking to fulfill them. So we have our tendencies, and then we have stories around our tendencies. So if you have a tendency to be a slow person, maybe you've had problems from that, and so in your mind you've got like a desire to be a fast person, so you're always going against yourself, and that's what we call seeking and suffering. So it's like we have our tendencies, there's identification with them, and then there is the belief that in order to be happy we need to be different. So it's really interesting, law of attraction, and how it works. So if you want to be really rich and successful in this society, I would assume, not all the time, but most of the time, the people that will be rich and really successful will have a very strong mentality that they are better than everybody else in that particular area that they got rich from. So they will have a king mentality or a queen mentality in that area. So say if they are they become rich through being an actress, it's more than likely there will be a part of them that believes that they are the best at that. So if you take Jim Carrey, for example, do you remember his story that he wrote himself $1 million check, and he believed 100% that he could do it? And I'm sure he has this mentality where he believes he is better than other people in what he does, and he most probably is. But they'll come together. Like, he's amazing with his face and impressions, and yeah, amazing, and a great, really amazing actor as well. So they often come together. And that's really interesting, because what happens in our society is that they say, no matter, like somebody was telling me, no matter what society we have, whether we have communist or capitalist society, the same people end up with the same percentage of wealth. So that same top heavy percentage of wealth, so even in communist society. And I do feel like it's slightly law of attraction based, because you will also breed children if you have that mentality. So if you take like the Trump family, like Donald Trump, so his father had a very strong mentality, I'm the best, I'm the ruler of the world, and then he passed that on to his son. And then I'm sure Donald Trump will pass it on to his next son. Yeah, so it's very interesting. And being rich isn't a good karma. Like, being really rich isn't a good karma. I actually think that being really rich actually can be a very difficult karma, because if you are very rich, then you have to protect all your money from everybody else. So and then you also have this tendency towards believing you're better than other people, which isn't true. And you can get lost in that. Yeah. And so non-duality enlightenment says that which was never born does not reincarnate, precisely. So to me, enlightenment is recognizing what you truly are. So habits and conditions will carry on to form and change and evolve, but that which you are is never reborn. It always is, though. So to me, enlightenment is that movement back to you are, and that's, I presume, what in Hinduism and Jainism they're talking about, but I can't be positive about that, is this movement back to what you are, and then there is no reborn birth. It doesn't mean that the character's energy doesn't get reborn. So if you look at the Buddha, like in life he achieved enlightenment, and then in death he achieved a nirvana, so not to be born again. Like he doesn't come back. But if you look, like his energy and his message has come back into society. So the essence of the Buddha really affected society. So it is in society. So you could say his like habits and conditions have come into society. But nirvana, when he died, like he like so in life, this is what they would say, like in life you can only achieve enlightenment because there is still the attachment to the body, because otherwise you'd be dead if you didn't if consciousness didn't in some way attach to the body. And then in enlightenment, it totally lets nirvana, it totally lets go of that. But I feel like life will always go back and watch itself. It can't not. It's always going to watch. If I'm pure consciousness, how can I have any karma or personality or problems? You're getting mixed up with what I is. So you as a person don't become pure consciousness. You as the person is a habit and conditioning forming from the body. So you as a person don't ever become pure consciousness. There is pure consciousness looking through, and then the body, mind, its behaviors and ways of being have what we call a personality. Even if it just sits there, not saying anything or not speaking, that's still a personality. That is still a personality. Yeah, totally. So Manam says, but the body mind is not me, who I truly am. Yeah, totally. So you as pure karma, you as pure consciousness have no karma. So that which is watching now, that which is experiencing now, has no karma at all. It's perfectly free. But the body mind has karma. And when there's the consciousness is identified with the body mind, or when there's an identification, then it feels like there is a person with karma. But when that breaks, it is seen that, like every object that appears in this life, the body has karma, but it's not who you are. It's an appearance. The genes are not my business. I always think, like in the apparent flow of things, it's always polite to try to tidy up the habits and the conditions. So on the human level, even though there isn't actually free will, like just saying this has an impact though. That on the human level, like good thing to do is to tidy up, like get your broom out and your dustpan and brush and tidy up the habits and the conditioning of the person, because everybody, including the most enlightened person you come across, has to some extent untidy habits and conditions. Somebody that's never been into this subject has really untidy habits and conditions. Yeah. Katie says, does karma stop once you're enlightened? What happens once there is waking up is the seeing that karma was never who you are, like the person was never who you are. It never belonged to you. Who you are is without any karma. Who you are as consciousness has no karma. Is this empty looking, which is expansiveness and totally free of anything. But the body-mind has karma. And the body-mind will never not have karma. Like, to me, karma is cause and effect. It's not a bad thing. It will always have karma. It will always have conditioned responses. More than likely, once this waking up, they will begin to prove and expand and become more loving and more in line with this recognition. But even that is karma. It's just maybe what we call good karma. Scroldinger's cat. Scroldinger's cat. Thank you, Nick. Oh, I love you too, Izzy. Mara. Hi, Mara. Hello, dear Lisa. The expression, each day is your life in miniature. Each day is your life in miniature. For me quite a tough one. Why does it make sense improving habits? Well, I mean, what activities do you like doing, Mara? Do you like cooking or cleaning or that sounds very sexist considering I presume you're a woman. Painting or dancing? And is it that you never want to improve in those? So if you like cooking, don't you think you also have the feeling to want to improve? I think that's a natural feeling of the human, to master the way we do things and to be given information and to expand that information and get better. And that's not a bad thing. That's, I think, part of our evolution. And so why would you want to not clean up the person? They become better at communicating, better expressing yourself, more genuine, more honest. I can say from interacting with other people, that's what I love, interacting with someone when they're really honest and they're really themselves and they've really explored the depths of what it is to be that person. When I'm in conversation with someone that's very unaware of themselves on a human level, it's not so fun interacting. I feel a bit squashed on the human level. But it's not from a place of seeking, if I improve my human dynamics, I will be happy, I will be free. It's more just this natural movement of a human to improve the way they do things. Yeah, thank you for your question, Mara. Simon. Hey, Simon. Lisa, can you speak about after the shift, everything being fresh and new? Is this always the case, as in when there is very gradual shift over time? Yeah, it's quite funny because if I ate pizza every night for dinner, or every meal for dinner, like on the human level, I would begin to appreciate it less and want something else to have for dinner. There's a lot about food in here, isn't there? So there is that can manifest, but then there is this other part which is much deeper, which sees things are fresh and new but isn't an activity. And it isn't about the human person as such seeing things as fresh and new, although it might come through the human person as like a childlikeness or a sense of wonder. But it automatically is wiping everything clean in every moment. When that which you are is consciousness, everything is being wiped clean. So when you see your lover, your partner, like they're not all the things they've done or the argument you've had or the shopping you've done or the whatever, they're watching TV or their behaviors or habits of conditioning. They are pure consciousness, which is right here, right now. It's pureness. They're absolutely free. They're not contained to any idea that you have of them. But then it also doesn't mean that if you don't, like with your partner, if you're always playing like the same board game or watching the same TV show every day, that you don't have a feeling of boredom of it and want to do something else. We're always getting these two levels muddled up. Yeah, I hope that makes sense, Simon. Thank you for your question. Hi, Osborne. Here is another question. Lisa, sending happiness and hope you are well. Thank you. I wonder if you can answer this thought. When watching thoughts, where are the thoughts coming from? As I've watched not thinking, so who is having the thoughts? The thinker watching the thoughts, or are we both? Thank you for your time. Isn't that a great question? Who is having the thoughts? Yeah, isn't that really funky? Yeah, the thoughts just appear, right? From the personal awareness perspective and from the thinking perspective, they're like going through this linear transition from one thought to another, and it's linear, and they're thinking about, oh, later on I'm going to go and get a piece of wood and make a table and do this and do that. So they seem to have a linear thought, like that each thought is coming from the other. But when you really explore it, you can't find their origin. And you actually can't find the place that they're arising from. It's not inside the head or outside the head. They're just appearing. And when you really explore it, you begin to see that that person that you think yourself to be is also in those thoughts. And also that person that's aware of the thoughts and contemplating the thoughts is in the thoughts. And that these thoughts express themselves as an energetic sensation around the body. Juicy, juicy, juicy. Juicy, juicy, juicy. So beautiful. Thanks, Osborne. Osborne's getting these questions from his channel video clips. That Lisa Cairns - video clips. Yeah. Studio 509 says, "Hey Lizzie, you seem to have started 4 hours early." I got my time zones wrong again. No, that's a joke. I had to start earlier today. Yeah, I tried to send out messages to people on YouTube. Yeah. That would be funny if I'd got my time zones 4 hours wrong. It would be like, boop, boop, beep, boop. She really has an empty brain, which is quite true, I do. I wouldn't put that past me. Hey from Greece. How to stay present. We love you, Lisa. Oh, hi, Bill. Danke. Rather than how to stay present, I would ask, what is it that is present always, that's never not present? Hey from Turkey, isn't it so cool? From Turkey, from Greece. From Europe. Where else are people? Sorry if I hit the microphone really loudly then. Might have been shocking. I hope this is working okay. So Mimam says, is being completely disappointed and disillusioned from life part of the process and a good thing and unavailable, or am I doing something wrong? From New York, from Austin, New Zealand, Canada, Spain. Nice. That can be part of the process because your energy for 20, 30, 40 years is used to seeking and getting pleasure. So it's used to doing these certain dynamics, the seeking games, and getting high pleasures from it. When you play that game, over time, the pleasure interest will become more and more flat. Like, so, you know, if it was you got lots of pleasure from earning money, over time you'll become disenchanted with that, even if you're not into the subject. But also with life overall, as you get older, you'll be less interested in just the pleasure. But when you get into this subject, you begin to go against that. So you stop doing things in order to get pleasure. So you see through a lot of stories and a lot of behaviors. And then what can be underneath is an agitation, a boredom, a discomfort, all these things that we've been trying to avoid, all these feelings that we've been trying to avoid. Yeah, and there can be serious, like depression, stuckness, lost. So I'd encourage you to explore that with someone, because when you're by yourself doing it, your mind can play lots of tricky games with you. So I'm currently on waiting list now, so you can't really easily do it with me, explore these dynamics, but you can find another teacher of non-duality who does sessions and help you explore it, because when you're by yourself, your mind can play lots of tricks with you and you can easily get into a depression loop, and that's not like, and then you get this idea that you've got to keep going through the depression and you're kind of like stuck in a loop. So I'd always like advise people to try to get somebody to work with them and get to know them personally, to guide them around these potholes. Yeah, there's lots of great teachers out there. You can find them on my website. Yeah, I have lists of lots of teachers. The ones I have on my website aren't the ones that are better than all the others. It's just the ones that I know. Like, so I'm not like trying to say these are the best ones. They're the ones that I know. Yeah. From France, from Australia. Yeah, nice. I love your humour. Oh, thank you. I think it's a very English humour, you know, like this a little bit surreal and sarcastic humour. But I really appreciate humour too. I was also a plumpy child, and they sometimes say that if you are a plumpy child, then you use humour as a way to deflect it. So I'm not saying that I'm using humour to deflect things now, but I think it's also something that I was interested in when I was younger as well, like looking at what was funny. I was a plumpy child. Yeah, I think I had to maybe use humour quite a lot, because not only that, I had severe dyslexia where they put me down a class and they said there was something wrong with the way I saw colours. So I used to have these massive like 80s turquoise glasses, and inside the lens they made it yellow, a yellow lens. So I also had to have glasses as well. But it also, the yellow was apparently helping me see colours and helping the letters stay still because they jumped around to me. So, and then also my mum used to perm my hair, so I had this like big 80s perm, like puffball perm, and she used to give me a briefcase to go to school with and a lunchbox. Like, I had to use humour a bit, I think, in that circumstance in order to survive. Yeah. Maybe one day I'll put a picture up in the live stream. Okay. I was wondering yesterday, from where does consciousness arise? What is both awareness? A bit cerebral, but yeah. Where does consciousness arise? I would say that it's the one thing that doesn't arise, that it's here. Everything else comes and goes, but it doesn't arise. It doesn't come from something. It is, its base is not a thing. There was one teacher I remember that used to say this. I thought it was so beautiful. He used to say that consciousness was like the angel's wings, and it went between no thing and everything. It went through the world of no thing and the world of everything, and the angel's kind of the messenger between. Yeah, I thought that was beautiful, but that maybe doesn't really translate the imagery. One wing in no thing and one wing in everything. And that's kind of consciousness, the bridge between the worlds. Yeah. Yeah, people are saying a picture. Okay, I will find a picture. I'm not sure if I have it here. I think I'd have to go to my mum's house to get it, but maybe she could send one to me. For going to school, my suitcase. I think I really like my suitcase. Like, I'm not blaming my mother for it. I used to like putting it on the table and be like, tick, tick, boom. It I would flick open, I had all my pencils and my pencil case and my bits of paper. Yeah. I really had no fashion sense either. My best friend when I was 11 said, Lisa, if you ever wear animal clothes out again, we are not going out in public. I used to wear like doggy tops and like rainbow butterfly trousers. And my whole room was like plastered in pictures of dogs. Yeah. Is there existence without a cause, as V.J. Christmas would say? I think my mouth is getting tired now. I think I'm at my limit of speaking. Yeah. It was nice to speak with everybody. I really enjoyed it. There was some things that I wanted to say. Next week the stream will be at usual time. I will exclude this from my diary so I can keep it at 6 p.m. French time. Yeah. I can't remember what else to say. Oh yeah, maybe you could also say or comment about the quality of the video. Like I've got it in really high resolution. Does that create problems for people? You know, if you're in a place without such good internet, like it might make it very difficult to live stream, or if you're using a phone or something. So just comment about that. But yeah, anyway, I wish you all a nice day wherever you are in the world, and I wish you everything, not just one thing or two things, but everything. Yeah.